Folks, you know this man. We call him the lumberjack. He's been on this channel more than any individual on one rental at a time. If you go look at the playlist, who has more videos and content, he is the man. He's done more for this channel than anyone else out there. And also, we don't always agree, which always makes it fun and entertaining. In fact, we don't agree on prices in 2023 and 2024, which many people have pointed out. But today,
I know, like, we have to agree on everything.
No, we are so strong-willed, we don't really care, right?
No, it's like, hey, this is my, the best thing is like, this is the iron sharpening iron part, right? Where it's like, you have a different view than I have, but you have data elements and data points to get you to your point. I have data elements and data points to get me to my point, and then we can still disagree. And then it's like, okay, we'll see who owes each other a dollar.
We have a dollar. Yeah, who's got the buck? And believe me, we will collect that dollar because I will put it right behind me up there. But the reason we're having this discussion is you have created something that I am so thankful for. One rental at a time, more specifically, how to get started one rental at a time, is about doing the work, finding average, doing great, not doing bad, as you corrected me on yesterday. Thank you.
Sure.
But it's about the deal.
Yeah.
I am not a hands-on manager. I have a property manager. I am far closer to Dion than you. Your Instagram page is full of stuff I could never imagine doing. And, you know, we've been talking for years, and you have just rolled out something in the last month or two that I'm ecstatic about. And that's basically, oh shit, I'm a landlord. Now what? So I translate that as, God damn it, I listened to Zuber. I found a great deal. But that's it. Zuber doesn't help me anymore. I don't know what to do now.
I mean, I think that, you know, it was one of those things where it was like, you know, as we spent more and more time together, it was, you really start to see the lines of where we build our businesses. And so you are an amazing deal evaluator. You are an amazing market evaluator. You know, you are doing all these things. And so for me, it's like, that was one of the things where I do it, I'm good enough at it. But at the same time too, for me, I'm evaluating the deal a little bit differently, because I'm going to either have to put hands on it or pay to have to put hands on it. And so when I've, you know, when I was broke as a joke and didn't have two nickels to rub together, I had to do all my own work. And I didn't know how to do anything. I had to figure it out. I had to pay contractors to let them participate and let me work with them.
Right.
And I don't want people to have to do that. So the only way that you can really get around that is, yes, you want to be doing some of those emergency things, but I think the biggest issue is, the more you know about something, the more you have pricing controls.
Right.
The more you have power over what you're paying. When we did that exercise that one day where you were replacing a roof.
Right. Yeah, you nailed it within like $200. I was like,
yeah, it was within $500 on a $70,000 roof, and it's not even a roof I'd seen. Right. Because I can generally price things pretty well. I won't always promise that I'm going to get within 1% or less than 1%, but ballparking and getting kind of close there. That way, as people can do it, I'm trying to do the same thing from a landlord perspective that you're trying to do from an investor perspective, which is help people avoid that mistake that takes them out of the game.
That big gotcha that crushes you, right? It's like an insurance policy.
Exactly. Where it's like, and who wouldn't spend, you know, a few $100 on your course to make sure that you're buying a deal that financially makes sense on the onset, right? So some of the areas that we try to address are an answer for your buy box. The buy box is the foundation of one rental at a time. No question. And what we try to do is, we were getting told for 2.5 years that we were overpaying for everything. I used my rent box to show that I wasn't. And now they all worship me.
Yeah.
They all lost those deals to me. Kidding on the worship, but they all lost those deals to me in my own market. And they're getting crushed now, because they would all buy those deals for what I paid now, even with today's rates, which are 2x. So yeah, our focus really is, you know, helping those that want to be investors, helping them do helping them really do two things. One is really understand when they've bought the property, how they can address and fix the things that they need to and make sensible upgrades to get the most that they can for their unit. And two is how to really manage tenants. They're a wild card. How to manage tenants. You always want to be a good landlord, regardless of how bad your tenant is. Don't let
Yeah.
water find its level. But
Right.
you need to know how to select them. You need to know how to vet them. You need to know how to manage them. And you need to know how to under promise and over deliver. You
Yeah.
have to be dependable. And we want that next generation of landlords to be great. I would love it if slumlord, if that word disappeared because people took care of their units and respected their tenants and made sure that they understood that this is a symbiotic relationship between the two of us, that it makes sense for us to work together.
Yeah. What I would tell landlords out there is, landlords always like to point at the tenants. I got to tell you, there's some crappy ass landlords.
Oh, some awful. I've bought a lot of property from them in the
Yeah.
last 2 years.
I made a business out of it. I made almost $1 million buying, slumlord properties and turning them into great rentals in about a 2.5 year period. So
yeah,
again, I just want people to realize there are some bad actors out there.
Absolutely.
But the job, again, if you're going to follow one rental at a time, get a great deal. You're going to own it. You're going to own it for a decade. You're going to recycle capital, whatever, just the process is. You got to be a good operator. And really, I really love about what you're doing is you're making about the sticks and bricks and the people.
Yeah.
And it is that combination that makes you unique, right? A lot of people see you on my channel and you're the crotchety old man and all of that. But I've known you outside of this, and your heart for your tenants, you will take a loss if there's any question.
I will.
Right. Every time.
Yep. Every time.
But not most people don't operate that way, right? They want to be, hey, it's a tie, the tenant loses.
Yeah.
That's not how you do this game.
Not how I do it.
No, not how I do it either.
No.
It's so you have a syllabus, you have an outline of what you've done. I know you've done a lot of things here. So
love to share that. Yeah, sure.
Take us through it.
So can you see this okay, is the question.
I can. I love the name, by the way. Oh shit, I'm
good.
a landlord, now what?
So that really that was truthful. That actually came from when I was searching for a name. I was really just trying to put myself back in the place of where I was when I first became a landlord. And I was trying to break my arm, patting myself on the back that I was going to be rich now because I just became a landlord.
Yeah, you bought a great deal. Now you're rich. That's not how it works. You got to operate.
Exactly. And the challenge is I got to the point when I was like, I don't have their cell phone numbers or their emails. That
might be a problem.
I don't know how to collect rent. I'm in trouble. And so I was like, I don't have a lease. I don't know how to collect rent. Like, hey, this was, ready, shoot, aim. It was like horrible. And so I literally sat at the closing table, and I literally said to myself, oh shit, I'm a landlord. Now what? I was
perfect.
Literally, that was my thought. And so I literally essentially went back to the beginning and said, I need to make sure that I'm covering the things that are most important when I was a brand new landlord and what they mean to people, And so I looked at all the things that I used to be the most scared of. It was tenant communication, collecting rent. It was all these things. So we'll go through it. But basically it's, I want to make sure that if I ever have to go to court, that I never lose. And that really comes down to processes and systems. It's
process, systems, documentation.
Exactly. Yep. So I have a move in and move out checklist. Yep. That way we go right down through that checklist. We check all the boxes. We have our set of pictures before anybody moves in. And we even say in our lease, hey, if you notify us within 5 days, we'll come out and fix and address anything. After that, it's your responsibility. We call that out in our lease. That's how I don't lose in court, is because if they send me something 30 days later and it's like, hey, the toilet top's broken. Wasn't like that when you move in. Well, yes, it was. No, you didn't report it, and we don't have it in our record. So sorry, not the way it was. Yep. So it really is that move in, move out checklist is kind of the core to what we do. And then it's the next step, which is the rent box. You have the buy box, which is what tells you whether or not you're having a good deal and if you're avoiding a bad deal. Right. We have the same thing on rents. Very often people get very lazy and if they're an existing landlord, they base the rents on the new unit as to what they're getting in an existing unit that they already have, that they are getting that for rent. While that might be true that you can get that same 1,600, what if you could get 1,900? Doesn't that change the terms of the deal? Literally another 20% of income on the deal. Yeah. So that's what the rent box really teaches. And then it's a matter of, this is something I learned from you and Dion, which was Section 8 housing and housing
Yeah.
content.
Diversify. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to diversify. That's where I went, had a really big struggle back in 08 when I went from 8 tenants paying to 3 to 1. This time, even if I have, 2/3 of all of my commercial tenants stop paying, I still have a cost basis with Section 8 and housing that's paying me.
Yeah.
And then to that end, it's now marketing. I have worked in 25 years in high tech. I worked in marketing and sales, and I know how to market. And so we actually did this with Mike's friend, Marina, who bought a duplex. She had written her ad and I read her ad, and in true lumberjack fashion was just like, that's awful.
Exactly. Let me just tell you what I think. That sucks.
Hey, FYI, I'll save you words. It's awful. And we rewrote her ad. And the next week she had more qualified tenants than she knew what to do with. And she had almost 150% increase in the number of people that responded to her ad.
Nice.
And so this is where these are the things that a lot of people are like, hey, 3-bed, 2-bath, this many square foot bedrooms. It's like, that ad's awful. Don't do it.
Yeah. Don't be like everybody else.
Exactly. You have to sell the sizzle, not the steak. Next was just talking about tenant management. I have all the letters that I use my tenants. Obviously, people have to make sure that they work in their state. However, the core of them, everybody needs an attorney on retainer. Everybody. Yep. So if you can just send them the documents already written and just say, hey, make the tweaks that are necessary to make this appropriate for my state, they spend 30 minutes doing it instead of 4 hours writing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Self-managing, insourcing versus outsourcing. So this is one of the things where there's a lot of people, 42% of people actually use property managers to manage their properties. I'd say 80% of them are getting ripped off.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
They don't know. Right. Yeah. And so I think the challenge becomes, how do you hold them accountable, manage their costs? The only way that you can hold them accountable and manage their costs is if you actually know what something costs.
Yeah.
So to that end, you can also not only manage them better, but you can also, most importantly, you can manage what your costs are going to be and insource a large part of it. If the only goal of that property manager, and this is what I see with most, is they're there to receive the phone call and do tenant correspondence. You're still paying to get things fixed. Things still have to be taken care of. So if you can set up a process and a system that allows you to not have to be the only person on that first touch from a tenant, you can essentially insource your property management and not give up your life, which is key. Because, not everybody wants to take that call, and I get it. Yeah. I know that you are the great Oz.
Yes. No, thank you. I will deal with people. I will deal with people that deal with people.
Absolutely. And then next was, how I essentially just kind of going through this process of, the binder method with Dion. We've both covered that a lot on our channels. That's huge. Yeah. It's fantastic getting your tenants to ask for a raise in their rents. And then budget upgrades. People often take over a place and they're like, yeah, I can just throw some paint on it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Well, it's funny you say that. I actually see the other problem. Especially with new landlords, like the shit, I'm a landlord now. They overdo it. Yeah. They're like, I would do this. I would do that. I'm like, you don't know your area. You don't know your rent box. Does your rent box warrant that? If it does, great. But if it probably doesn't, and you're overspending and you're, in my world, hurting your yield. If you spend $1,000 on the make ready that you don't need to, that hurts your yield. So we looked at it on one of Dion's units, and he said, if I spend $10,000, I'm going to get an extra $150 a month in rent, maybe 100, maybe. And I was like, yeah, I mean, if you're $1,200 a month, I mean, you're looking at an 8-year return. I don't love that. I think you wait until the unit goes vacant and then you do some of that work. Yeah. Then you do a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. You do a little bit more. So it's really talking about the upgrades that you should do and the ones that you shouldn't do. Like you said, some people spend $10,000 and it's like, no. You could have spent $2,000 and gotten the same money. Yeah. And you wasted $8,000 that you could use on your next deposit or down payment. Exactly. That's what slows you down. And then talking about student housing, how I got rich doing that, because that was my first foray into real heavy landlording with student. I remember. Yep. And there's systems and processes that you have to have in place. There's a lot of do's and don'ts there that you really have to make sure that you avoid. Things like not having parents sign the lease. Most people are like, what? That's completely counterintuitive. I would never do that. Enjoy going to court. Yeah.
because they will fight
Mom and
to the
dad got
ends,
money.
that they'll fight to the ends of the earth to protect little Johnny. And if Johnny's over 18, Johnny can pay for it. Johnny can take care of it.
Yeah.
Then next was just lumberjack maintenance, how to avoid those expensive fixes. There's little things that people can do to get an extra 5 years, 7 years out of a roof or some more time out of a water heater. But it's really understanding how to anticipate those things, because
Do
you and I
them
both
early.
know when you get that call and it's like, yeah, $3,000, you're like, huh, okay.
Yeah. Not much you could do after the water heater broke. Not much you could
Exactly.
do.
Exactly. But if you recognize, hey, this thing's got I looked it up. It's code on it says it's got an 8-year warranty,
Right.
and we're at 7.6.
Yeah.
I need to start budgeting for a water heater because I'm going to have to replace it next year. The world would be saved if we could get the actuaries who figure out how long that steel in the bottom of a water heater is going to last.
They nail it every time, man. I've had
Yeah.
so many go like 6 months after. I'm like, damn it.
Exactly. They're like, no, if you put just 1 more ounce of this material in,
bam,
you'll be fine. Exactly. And then, what's near and dear to my heart too is like the rehab and construction stuff. Too often when people, they're like, yeah,
again,
burn.
it's where you shine, and
thanks.
I pay people.
Yeah. And again, I think here, the nice thing now is now I get to pay people. But the cool thing is like when they sit in there and they tell me, like somebody said to me today, he goes, yeah, we can do that door, blah, blah, blah. We're going to spend, and I said, great. How much time? He's like 5 hours. I go, why on God's green earth would I pay you 5 times 40?
Yeah.
I said, I'm not going to pay you $200 to make that hole right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call and order another door. I can use that other door somewhere else. I'm going to call and order another door. Cost me no more money. And now you're still going to put it in for the same rate. So I just saved myself $200.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Little things like that, but just understanding how rehab and construction work. And then designing for your units. I know that you guys hired a designer to kind of make your template, right?
Yeah, yeah. So just to kind of clarify that. So I had a designer at the Hub, which is an office building I own. One of the things we did in trade is she created a list of products years ago, and I haven't deviated. So it's the same design elements. That's why you go look at my walkthroughs post completion. They all kind of look the same.
They do. Somebody even said to me, they're like, oh, well, this is that unit. And I was like, no, it's actually not.
It's a different one.
What's really funny though, is that we have tenants that move from our 4 units with multiple roommates down to 1 tenant with another roommate. And they're like, I love it because I love the scheme. So I'm literally just moving a smaller unit.
There you go.
And I was like, exactly. So we really talk about, again, templatizing the approach, the do's and don'ts, budget worthy upgrades, really making sure to focus on that sort of stuff. And then lastly is when you're going through all this process, you have to really understand how to communicate properly with state and government officials.
Yeah, and that's a big one. I think a lot of landlords, especially new landlords, just get frustrated, and that's not helpful.
No,
it's not helpful. You've got to listen. You got to understand. You got to realize that these organizations are trying to protect tenants. And to the earlier point, there are some shitty landlords.
Yeah.
So ask questions, listen.
Yep.
When you actually ask questions of code enforcement, they're shocked because they're only used to people being angry at them.
Right. It's a relationship. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not the, hey, government's here. How can we help? And we're here to save you. However, if you're new to the business and you hired somebody off of Thumbtack or through a relationship that you knew somebody who knew somebody, what you do and how you write that contract with that vendor is that they get paid when this level of the project passes inspection.
Yep.
That means that you don't have to pay them. You're not on the hook to pay them for that next gate until the inspector has walked through and said, and you need to be there. If you're new to this business, you should be there having that conversation with the inspector saying, when that way he's like, nope, I like what they did here. And you can ask the inspector, what are your thoughts on how they did this? Yeah, I like how they did this. Or I've had a couple of times where like, yeah, I don't love how they did that. And I was like, okay,
this could have been done different. It's passable, but I don't love it.
Exactly. And that is, okay, what's it going to take to do this right? Okay, so I didn't want it done in a way that was just a pass. I wanted it done it the right way.
Me too.
These are all the ways.
I've redone work before, thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
And the code enforcement guy was shocked. I'm like, I'm going to have to come back. I'm like, yeah, I want you to come back when it's done right.
Right.
And how does for decades?
And what's that do for your reputation with the town?
Oh, well, the first couple of times they're shocked, but again, I've been in the game 20 years. They come to my properties now. I'm not treated as harshly.
No, of course. They're far more willing to let something small be like, hey, you know what? It does need to get taken care of, but you know what? Just take a picture of it and send it to me.
Exactly what happens.
Yep.
They identify 7 things. They write up 1 and they say, send me the picture of the other 6.
Yep.
Done.
Exactly. Great. This is how you drastically reduce the drag by which you manage your properties.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. So you know what? Stop sharing because I got to ask you one final question.
Absolutely. Sure.
So I know you put this together and I know you love spending time with people on Sundays.
I do.
So wrap this up. So you offer a course now, which we've just seen the syllabus for, but you offer more wrapped around this. So what else are we offering?
Yeah, so really what we have is we have our Sunday live stream, which will always be free. We'll always do that for folks because we want to participate in people gaining knowledge.
Yes.
When you're ready and you say, you know what, I'm Matt, the lumberjack. You're not trying to convince me to become a landlord, but I want to be a landlord. So I bought Mike's course. Now I'm buying stuff. Now I want to buy your course because now I want to self-manage this stuff. I want to really understand it. So we have the course that you can buy, which is all available to you via video. It's almost 10 hours of content. Okay. And it's all about the landlord stuff. And then the last piece is we certainly have one-on-one available, but mostly we like to have people in boot camp because we want iron sharpening iron. We want to have people asking questions of me live every single Sunday in a small group. It's only between 15 and 18 people where they get their questions asked about not only what we covered that week in the course, but also what they might have that's going on in their life right now in their investment journey. We make sure that everyone gets at least a question in there.
So if somebody wanted to see this again, see what you're offering, all that good stuff, where do they go to find it?
You can go to the lumberjacklandlord.com and check it out on the website where you can actually click on the video and see the full video where I spend about 18, 20 minutes going through it much like this. And then you can also in the Sunday live streams, ask people that are in the course. I won't shout you down. Ask people that are in the course what their experience has been. So far, the record that we have is that somebody made more than what the course cost in the first 3 days that they implemented the stuff they learned. That's the record so far was 3 days. I love it.
That's a hell of a return because if you analyze that over a year, that's quite impressive.
Making $1,000 more a month now.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
Well, I'm glad you did this. It's something I have no experience in this, would never do it. I'm glad it's a compliment. I see it as a wonderful thing for folks. Folks, one rental at a time, folks. Go check out lumberjacklandlord.com and see if it's for you. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.